RRR was directed by S.S. Rajamouli, and I'm very excited to give you guys my review for this movie. If you've seen it, be sure to leave a comment what you thought about it. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this review. This movie is a fictional story about two legendary revolutionaries and their journey away from home before they started fighting for their country in the 1920s. So I have been hearing a lot of great things about this movie, and I finally got to check it out last night with my mom. And I absolutely love this movie. I thought it was great. I'm going to try and keep this review spoiler free because I knew nothing about this movie, and I'm really happy that I got to watch this without knowing any main details. So I'm going to do my best to not give away any spoilers in this so that anyone who hasn't seen this movie can go and watch it not knowing anything. So for me, this movie was absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I did not know what to expect from it, and for me, I thought this movie was a lot of fun. It had fun moments, funny moments, some serious moments, some suspenseful moments, some sad moments. It was full of different tones that never conflicted with each other. They always worked for this movie. And this movie at times can be over the top, but it wasn't over the top in a bad way. It was always entertaining. Like the fight scenes, the sort of two main leads, they're a lot stronger than people are, and they're able to jump really high and punch people really far away and lift things that people just couldn't lift on their own. So it's over the top with that, but it was fine. It worked for the movie. It was entertaining. The action scenes were great, and this movie did a great job of subverting my expectations as well, because at the start they were setting it up where it's like, okay, we got our main character, he's the hero of this, and they got this other guy that's setting up him to be like the main antagonist, and he's going to be hunting this hero for the entire movie. It's going to be like an action movie. That's sort of what I thought they were setting up, but then they changed that. There's not a lot of action in this movie. When it's there, it's great, but they don't oversaturate this movie with action. It's more character driven, which I really appreciated. And there's these two characters that become friends, and later on there's sort of a conflict with them, and I thought that played out very well, especially as you sort of learn more about the characters. One friend, they sort of set him up at one point of this movie to be a certain way, but then as the movie plays out, you learn more about him, and you're like, oh, okay, he's doing this, that sort of thing. It was very well done. There's a lot of things I did not see coming, and I love that dynamic between those two characters. They meet early on in this movie, and they sort of become best friends, and the way their friendship plays out throughout the movie I thought was fantastic. The characters were great, the performances were great, and they did some really cool stuff with the stunt work in this and some of the fight scenes with those two actors. They did some really fun stuff that you don't see in a lot of action movies. Like, for one, this minor spoiler for something to do in an action scene, but in one of the later ones, they're sort of fighting while one is on top of the other's shoulders, and the guy's carrying him on his shoulders. That was great. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, the action in this is all really fun, and there's some musical numbers in this in a way. Like, there's a dance scene, there's some singing. It's not a musical movie, but there's some singing, there's a dance scene, there's a couple actually, and they were really fun too. And that's sort of what I was saying, like, there's different tones in this movie, but they never conflict. It never feels like these are different movies meshed into one. They work, which is kind of surprising, but really good that they do, because there's some moments, like a flashback sequence where it's kind of dark, like it's a very serious sort of dark themed when you think about what's going on, and then there's moments where they're doing these sort of musical dance routines, and it's a lot of fun. And you get moments with over-the-top action, which was a lot of fun to watch. There's some great action. This is very well choreographed. The actors look like they did a lot of their own fight scenes and some of their own stunt work. And there's a couple romantic subplots with the main characters in this movie, and when they were setting up one of them, I was nervous, because sometimes when you get a big movie like this with the story that they're telling, they sort of just add in a subplot like that, which doesn't really need to be there, and it sort of takes away from everything. For me, it worked. I thought that was done very well. It had some nice sweet moments to it, and it worked. Like I said, it worked very well. I was really surprised by how everything just seemed to work in this movie. The different tones, there's some different smaller storylines that they take their time to develop, and it works very well. And with all these storylines that they're taking time to develop, it means this movie's longer. It's about 3 hours and 5 minutes, but you don't feel that runtime. This movie's always moving. It was always moving at a good pace. There's never a time it's like, oh, they can just cut this out. It was always moving, which I really like. So the 3 hours 5 minutes didn't bother me. It just went by pretty fast. So that was great too. And like I said, I was really surprised by how much just everything seemed to work about this movie. It's over the top, but it can be serious too. It's long, but it doesn't feel long. It was great. I think for me, if I had to say some of the issues I had, they're fairly minor. One of them is the CGI at times is noticeable. Like there's some CGI animals like tigers and wolves. The CGI on them's not great. There's times when you're like, okay, they're definitely standing in front of a green screen or a blue screen. There's moments like that, but it's not too distracting. I guess another sort of nitpick, it's not a huge issue, is there's times in this movie where one of the main characters gets flogged, he gets beaten, and then you see him like a day or two later and he's got some cuts, a few bruises on him, but he looks overall really good and he can still fight and move perfectly and run away. So that was a bit like, okay, you wouldn't think he'd be able to do that after what he had gone through the day or couple of days before. Like they've already established that this character and one other one are stronger than what people typically are and can do things people typically can't. So I guess you can write it off as they're just superhumans, I guess. So he's able to do that, but still it's like, okay, I could handle the other over the top stuff because it was fun. That's like, okay, maybe a bit too much, but that was pretty minor because it doesn't happen a lot in this movie. So that, and at times the noticeable CGI, that's probably my biggest issue. Other than that, this was great. Like I said, I enjoyed pretty much everything about it. I was so surprised by how everything just seemed to work for this movie. It was fantastic, and the soundtrack in this was great as well. It was great. Everything other than, some questionable CGI was great about this movie. Performances, action, the story. I was really surprised by how heartfelt the story could be at times and how serious, because of how over the top the movie is at times. This storyline is fairly serious and quite heartfelt too, which made it great, which made this be more than just like a fun popcorn movie, which it can be at times with its action, but the story made it feel like a real movie, if that makes sense, for lack of better words. I would say like a film, more than just your popcorn blockbuster movie. So I really appreciated that. I thought this movie was fantastic. Definitely one of my favorites to come out of 2022. I have to think about it a bit longer, but it may actually be my favorite movie that I saw to come out of 2022. So for me, I'm going to give RRR a 94%. So guys, those are my thoughts on RRR. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've seen this movie, be sure to let me know what you thought about it. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And be sure to stay tuned for some more reviews coming soon. My next review should be of No Time to Die, the final James Bond movie in my James Bond movie review. So stay tuned for that. And until my next video, take care everybody.